it on the
Sure.
okay. So hi everyone, we are group 2 and we are going to present our project, the final project for fundamentals of artificial intelligence. This project of ours is about the resume classification in a parser that we have tried to build. I have other two members, Richa and Marilyn, with me. To begin with, can you move to the next slide, please? To begin with, first I'll try to introduce you what the project is about. So our project basically aims at analyzing the resume data set that we have with us of various candidates. And through this data set, we have tried to classify all the resumes based on the skill set into various categories. And then we have tried to parse those resume, and we have built certain rather two models to classify these resumes and then parse the resumes to predict the field of domain that exists for each of the candidate in those resumes given. That would help the companies to automate this process rather than doing it manually and understand the best fit for the hiring process. The problem statement here is basically first we'll be extracting the text and the data from the document, which is in the PDF format. Next, we have tried to divide and classify the categories given in that resume data set. Next, we have tried to build two classification models, KNN and logistic regression, to understand and predict those categories. And then we have tried to understand the best fit model based on the accuracy metrics. In these slides, we'll be first of all explaining the exploratory data analysis, which will help us to understand what kind of data set we are working with. We have also performed certain visualizations to get the better understanding of the data and help to visualize what kind of skill sets are existing in those data sets. Next, we have tried to build two classification models. This will be the motive of our presentation. Here are the tasks performed, which of course includes the data collection that is being done. The data has been collected. The data that we have taken is from Kaggle, and we have tried to prepare and clean the data. Next, we have, again, like I said, we'll be doing the exploratory data analysis and visualization. And at the last, we'll be showing you two models that we have built. Now I'll hand over to my teammates for further explanation. Over to you, Richa.
Thank you, Sakshi. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, so the very first thing that we've performed is to collect the data and try to prepare it. Here, as Sakshi mentioned, we've collected the data set from Kaggle, and it consists of two columns, basically categories and the resume text. So this data would be analyzed further, and we would try to prepare this data, which would then be given to the model for training, which will help us in classifying the categories of the resume data. Also here what we've done is try to describe the data. So we've performed some descriptive analysis and statistical analysis to get a better understanding of the data. And here, as we can see, that we have total number of rows and columns that have been displayed. And also we have the type of the data set and the information with respect to the data set, which gives us a clear idea about what kind of data we'll be working on. So this was something with respect to data collection and data preparation. Next slide. Now we come to data profiling. So in order to get more insights about this data set that we are working on, we've tried to perform data profiling, which is a function in Python, which basically generates a report of the data set. And this report actually gives an overview and summary of the data with respect to the data set statistics and variable analysis, missing values that are present in that data set. So here, as we can see, the data set statistics gives details about the count of number of variables, the number of observations, what kind of or what type of variables that are present in the data set. And with respect to variable analysis, we get the details about each variables or each parameters that are present in the data set that we are working on. So, this gives like a brief overview and statistics of the data set parameters. Next slide. So the data profiling report also gives us an overview of these missing values and null values that are present in our data. So, we can work with this, and this would, help us in the next phases of the data cleaning processes. And here, as we can see from the graph, it is observed that there is no null values or missing values that are present in our data. And so our data is clean, which can be used for further analysis and model building phases. Now the data set, as we've seen, has two columns, basically the resume and the category column. And we need to actually predict the category column with respect to the resume. So that's kind of an independent variable that we have. So in order to perform this text classification model building, the text which is present in the resume column, the data that is present there needs to be cleaned so that we can pass that text to the model, which can classify it further. But for this, we need to clean that data. We need to clean the text. As we can see, there are a lot of jargons that have been present there. So in order to do this, we've performed regex function, which will clean the text of that resume column and then store the data, the cleaned text or the cleaned data back in a new column in the same data frame. So we can even compare it, and that clean data will then be used and taken into consideration for the further model building phases. Yeah, so the next step here is the data visualization. Here we can see the frequency count of each category is being plotted, which helps us in understanding what is the total count of the categories that is present in this kind of data set. And here the bar graph is being represented, which gives us the details about each categories. Next slide. So this plot is again a similar one to the previous, but it gives us much detailed idea and insights about the categories column and the various fields that are being present for each resume. So this gives us the count and the frequency percentage of each category. And here, as we can see that for the category value, say, for example, the Java developer field, the count and the frequency percentage both are higher as compared to any of the others. And so this gives us a basic understanding and idea that this kind of this field or this value is has the total number of resumes with respect to this category. So we can get an overview of each of the category and the number of count resumes that are being present in the data set. Over to you, Merly.
Thanks, Richa. So apart from classifying our data set, with regards to the varied categories of resumes that we would have, I think it would also make sense to attempt to build, a model that would help us classify a resume from scratch. What I mean is, you just input a resume, maybe in a PDF format, into a function, and it gives you valuable insights. So that's what we attempted to do. So we wrote varied functions to extract, in the first place, the entire text from the PDF, followed by maybe the email address of the person to whoever the resume belongs to, then the names, key insights like probably the phone numbers, the key skills that the person has on the resume, and of course the education and the schooling background of the individual. So of course we had to write functions for each of these and display it. Now I do not really want to get into the nitty-gritties of how the function was written, but these were the key insights that were generated. What I want to point out too is specifically that the names, extracting the names of a person from the resume was not a very straightforward thing to do, because it firstly threw a lot of errors. It threw me a lot, like a lot of bunch of, I mean, a considerable bunch of errors, because it would give random names about the package and basically proper nouns apart from just the name of the person. So that's a key challenge that still needs to be addressed when it comes to resume passing. Well, from our reading, it did come through that resume passing is really challenging, because there are varied aspects that you need to take into consideration before you actually build a model for resume parsing. Secondly, what I wanted to bring forth, the second most challenge that we faced was also with regards to name, the skill set. Basically, of course, we were able to extract the skills from the resume that we fed to the function, uh, but the skill set is something that's usually very profound, and it's always changing, so it's very, very dynamic. So we attempted to also pull out the skills from an API, and for which you basically had to have uh, permission to access that API. So via our functions, we weren't really able to do that, and that's something that probably would be uh, something that we would want to work on in the future. So that was our second most, I would say, the second challenge that we faced in our project. And thirdly, extracting the education and schools from the resume was fairly simple once we reached the end of our project. But again, it wasn't very straightforward, because at the end of the day, we were just pulling out keywords. So basically, from the dummy resume that we used, the education would be economics, but it also clubbed another keyword with it, which didn't really make sense. The same was with school, like if he belonged, for example, the person belonged to Pittsburgh University. So Pittsburgh was in isolation, and the word university was in isolation somewhere else. So it wasn't really straightforward, but it did serve the purpose of pulling out exactly what we wanted. So to some extent, we did succeed in building functions to pass a resume. That's what I would say. And yeah, so that's basically the crux of what I just mentioned to you all. So these were basically snapshots taken from the varied functions that we wrote to build our resume passer. And moving forth, of course, it would also make sense to build our models based on the data sets that we've chosen, that is, based on the categories that we saw for the resumes. And before that, it makes sense to conduct label encoding, so that all our variables are in the numerical format. Also, we need to conduct word vectorization, which we did, and we chose specifically two models, that's the k-nearest neighbor classifier and the logistic regression model. And of course, the flow would be to also generate a classification report with the accuracy, precision, recall, and the confusion matrix. So firstly, we built the k-nearest neighbor model, and you see the details. So it was fairly a good model, is what I would say, because uh, the precision and recall were more towards one, or I would say it's almost nearing one, which suggested that it is a good model. The same was seen for logistic regression as well, where the value is nearing one, and I would say it's all one basically. Yes. So the accuracy, on the other hand, was 97 for the k-nearest neighbor, and we also display the confusion matrix. What we need to bring out here is that there was no data missing in in the data set. So it's usually a concept, it's a preconception that probably if your accuracy is way too high, then probably there's hardly any data in your in your data set. That wasn't the case with us. So the data was indeed there, and the entire data set was trained accordingly. So we used the 70-30 split for our training and testing model while doing this. And as for the logistic regression, our accuracy even improved further. You see that we received a 99% for the test data set, and we also displayed the confusion matrix for the same. Over to you, Sakshi, for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Madeline. So basically, what we have seen here in the entire presentation is that we have tried to analyze the resume based on the skill set. We have tried to extract them into certain categories based on those skills. We have worked on the PDF document and tried to build the model at the two classification models on these category. These models were trained and we were able to achieve a 99% of accuracy through logistic regression. This is the test accuracy for the logistic regression model, whereas for KNN we were we were able to somehow able to achieve 97% of accuracy. Here I would like to mention, of course, if we go and look around the accuracy matrix, the logistic regression worked well as compared to KNN, but KNN did not fail to give bad results either. So I think for the classification model, logistic regression worked very well. So that's all for our presentation. I think that'll be all. Thank you.